Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. We're on episode who knows what number it's been so far, but thanks for being patient for us while we took our little hiatus for a couple months as we prepped for our board exams. Still waiting for those results. You could probably expect a different life update episode in another episode. But today we have such a pretty cool special guest. He's been mentioned multiple times in other podcast episodes. In case when you aren't aware, you've probably been mul mentioned in like at least three older podcast episodes,
I
among
did not pay
others.
them. There were not sponsorships. I don't know who
No,
they,
they're
I don't know who they were.
non-sponsorships. But do you have anything else to say before we hand it off to Elwin to introduce himself?
I think it's just about time that we got Elwin on. I think Holly mentioned Kyra and Corby. Three people mentioned it. It's a pattern. So, now we got the real thing in front of us. We got the real Elwin in front of us. So, really, really excited to chat with you today, Elwin. If you want to take it away, give us like a brief summary of your education background, some of the titles that you've held, and yeah, the floor is yours.
Sure. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Kinesiology and Health Science from York University and a diploma in Sports Injury Management from Sheridan College. Job titles. Ooh, lots of those. Athletic therapist, medical coordinator, medical manager, venue medical manager, medical venue manager, senior medical manager, medical director. Titles are the easiest way for you to to get you to do something without paying you a lot of money. So there's there's plenty in that bag.
For sure. And then I guess, what would you say is one of the most memorable job titles that you've held or that you hold really dear to your heart? And we'll get started from there.
Well, probably the one I have now. I'm currently the senior medical manager for the FIFA World Cup 2026 here in Canada. And yeah, an opportunity to work with probably one of the largest sporting events in the world is fantastic and exciting.
hmm So I'm very curious, like, what would a day in the life look like, for you? What did you do today? Were you at the stadium today, or just give us a rundown of what that would look like?
Of what a typical medical venue manager, you just run us through your job title and your responsibilities.
Yeah.
Um, well, first of all, I want everyone to understand that my role is not clinical. When I work as part of an organizing committee or help organize an event, it's a non-clinical role. It's an administrative role. It is a planning role. So my day-to-day involves a lot of meetings. So over the planning period for this tournament for the FIFA World Cup, every day is lots of meetings, lots of remote meetings, lots of in-person meetings. Flew to Vancouver several times to have meetings with the planning teams over there. Going down to Miami for workshops and meetings there. Houston, Atlanta, a lot of travel to meet with various groups and stakeholders. Uh, and after the planning phase, get the operational phase, which is all putting all the plans you have on paper, taking them off the paper and making sure they work on the ground. S Supply logistics, building out spaces, finalizing your stadium inspections, walking your patient flows, your routes, making sure that the plans that you designed on paper are actually going to work in real life. There's a lot of interconnectivity with other areas. We call them functional areas in this world, which are like departments. Everyone has their own responsibility, but we cross over with a lot of other folks. We share space with a lot of folks. Their work affects your ability to operate. Our work affects their ability to operate. So we got to walk through all of that on paper and then do it again actually at the stadium to make sure we're not interfering with each other and whatever changes we need to make. And then just before the tournament starts, finalizing all of everyone's plans and thought processes, and then off we go. Once the tournament started, I go to a support role. I have teams on the ground every match day. And my job is just to make sure that they can do their job. And my job is, and then that's true for both stadiums, both here in Toronto and Vancouver, our two stadiums in Canada that I'm responsible for. We also have team base camps, one in Vancouver and one up in Ottawa Saga. Team Panama was here in Ontario as part of their base camp process. And we also have a training, an official training site here in Toronto and Centennial Park, and one in Killarney Park in Vancouver. So oversee all the coverage in all of our spaces. And I'm the link with our stadium medical teams to the central planning or team headquarters in Miami during the tournament. My day-to-day now is a lot quieter, which is great. A little bit more admin stuff, making sure that I communicate with our providers, making sure that they're comfortable with contracts and invoices and things they need to send us, answering questions, and then making sure that we're ready for the next match day. Because, if you've done a good job with all the planning, the actual days go smoothly.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot to digest. And obviously, this is not like your first time doing something like this, but maybe it's like one of correct me if I'm wrong, like one of the highest like competitions that you've had to be in charge of. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would absolutely say so. I mean, I think it is the largest single sport event in the world,
Mhm.
especially this one. This one is the biggest FIFA World Cup that we've had. I just read a, a line the other day, or a stat the other day. In 16 days, we've already played as many matches as there was for the entire World Cup in 2022 in Qatar. And we're only just finished the group stages. So yeah, we've got 104 matches to play this World Cup. So it's really, really exciting to be the first at something and the largest of something. So yeah, been great.
So I guess a follow-up question for me, or Raf, you can jump in here afterwards if you have a question. I'm just curious about like how do you get this sort of experience, like organizing such an event at this grand scale? Like this is international, basically, right?
Mhm.
So what are some of the step-by-step events that you've like gone through, or things that you've had to, like some of the obstacles that you've had to gone through throughout your career to kind of like get to where you are today?
Sure. As with anything, it starts relatively small scale.
Mhm.
I did start at York University, helping to coordinate all the first day coverage at intramural sports. And after I graduated on working field hockey, I think we did the national championships, or it might have been with field hockey Ontario with the provincial championships and then the national championships. And then I had an opportunity to put together the medical operations for men's field hockey at a regional World Cup qualifier, and this was back in 2004. And so, a couple of events along the way as we go along with national championships and in participating both as organizing or as part of a team. And in 2014, an opportunity came up to be a part of the medical team to put together or plan the medical operations for the 2015 Pan Am Games. And I was hired as part of the team to do that. That was my first sort of real experience with a really large scale event. Uh, then I went on to do the 2017 Invictus Games that were here in Toronto. I was hired to go down to Australia in 2018 for the 2018 Commonwealth Games. And also just did the 2022 Canada Summer Games. So, in terms of the organizing committee side or organizing game side, that was sort of my journey to World Cup. But I think part of the part of the attraction or part of what helped get me hired on board with FIFA World Cup was my experiences with the teams at international levels. World Cups, Pan Am Games, all of those World Championships, all of those experiences from a team perspective and having that perspective because that's our major client base when we organize an event. Being able to bring that perspective to play is, I think, a big part of the reason that I was hired on board with FIFA.
Mhm.
Was the FIFA opportunity like a job posting on LinkedIn? Like, how did you come about that opportunity?
Yes, and they all are. All these jobs get posted with these large events. They get posted. So after a while, you learn to look for them and reach out and hire. So there is a hiring process. There is a series of interviews that you go through. Um, yeah, and just like you guys are waiting for your exam results, you sit there and wait for to hear whether or not I get the job. So yeah, then again, it's something like that when you get the news is very, very exciting.
Mhm.
Would you say that?
Congrats, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Would you say that a lot of like your experience like working in like the sector of like admin work, did you learn like on the job or did you receive like a lot of formal like education like from Sheridan from your
No,
work?
most of it's probably learning on the job.
Okay.
Being able to take past experiences, flip it inside out, so that you can turn it to what you're doing now. So taking the experience I have with a team, for example, and flipping it the other way to see what I would do, how we need to plan for when teams come, how can we support teams, what resources do they need, and just sort of flipping it inside out so that you change your perspective.
For sure. Elwin, what would you say are some of the key takeaways that you've learned from, working various major games? And then, for us, recent grads and, newly certified ATs, hopefully, that are interested in this pathway, what should we know about coming from you?
I can talk all day. How many hours you got? I guess it really just depends on what perspective of major games you're coming from as well. I guess I've experienced sports and games from multiple perspectives, from as a spectator, as a member of a team that's playing at the games, as a therapist for the teams, as part of the COC health services team at a games, as part of the organizing committee that's putting on the games, and now it's part of the games rights holders perspective. Um, so the key takeaways are all different from every perspective, but even from a spectator, having something from the spectator perspective, I can speak perspective can be very useful because understanding the end user experience helps to shape your operational planning. Um, as a team therapist at a major games, it's all about player performance, the team performance. And generally, the pressure increases at a major event. And so the energy around a team can change. So on top of all the AT skills that have gotten you that far, and you with the team there, developing an ability to know whenever your athletes might need some gentle intervention. Do you have a pathway or a protocol um, to make sure that they get what they need? Have you connected already with a team doctor or a team psychologist about something like that? Do you even have a team doctor and psychologist? And if you had major games and your doctor is not there, the COC does have a health services team with doctors and mental health professionals. So, you need to get connected with them. So more than just what you do at the table, on the table, or on the sidelines with your athletes. If it's your first time at a major games, um, how do you be in control of your own energy and your focus? Because every time you turn around, it's a new experience, and it's both stressful and exciting at the same time. But how do you um, get yourself to focus, to be at your best, and still enjoy the experience? And so true for an athlete who's also at a major games for the first time. They're also going through all of that. So how do you help them perform at their best, both physically and mentally? From a health services perspective, from a Team Canada perspective as a whole, being part of a health services team can be a very difficult role. You're often asked to work with a team or and athletes that you're not familiar with, sometimes with a sport that you may not be familiar with. So you need to do your due diligence, reach out to the team, get to learn about the athletes, learn about the team's culture, learn about the sport culture itself if you're not familiar with the sport, and the rules of the sport that pertain to the to medical, incidents. And when you finally join the team or meet the team on site, You have to be able to very quickly assess the coaches and the team's habits and preferences for the day to day and integrate yourself into the team and build those relationships as quickly as possible because you know you don't have the same amount of time like you've had with your own team, for example. If it's as part of an organizing committee, I often talk about ownership, having a sense of ownership for the whole event, not just your specific area of operations. You need to want the whole event as a single entity to be successful, and you have to understand what that success looks like for the entity as a whole. And then you need to understand how you and your operations fit into the big picture. You work with all your colleagues across the different areas to make sure that everyone can be successful in their areas because the whole is definitely more than the sum of its parts. Uh, Teamwork and collaboration are vital skills when you're part of an organizing committee, and they are skills. These are abilities that can be developed and honed just like any clinical skill. And it's simple to say that, well, we work in a team environment. I'm part of a team. So teamwork comes naturally, and that's not always the case. Real teamwork and collaboration often means balancing priorities for the whole group, not just your own. It's about finding a way for everyone to come out ahead without compromising your own ability to function effectively. It's who needs to bend and how much, which all sounds simple, but it's not always simple. Uh, Having a really broad range of knowledge can be very, very important. You are the subject matter expert in your area, in the medical area, but you'll want to have broader knowledge of how the entire event all comes together with all the groups working together. And so that's having that knowledge can be very, very important. How does your area affect other your colleagues' areas? How do their operations affect your ability to function? So having that, information or that knowledge is important. But even within your own realm, do you know how to bring together an interprofessional team? Do you have a good understanding of how different fields of therapy work together or how they can come together? Do you know how to integrate doctors and nurses into the operations? What about paramedics? What about specialty care like vision and dental? Do you need to build a polyclinic? What are the regulations around that? What are the government bylaws and regulations you have to meet? So there's a quite a large breadth of knowledge that you at least need to know or know that you don't know and need to go find out. It can be a key question, you know. Um, some of the things that new grads or students coming out might want to keep in mind if this is something that they're interested in is this type of job is not really about your clinical or technical skills. It is about your ability to think strategically, to be able to communicate across different levels of stakeholders, and how you manage people. How good are you at anticipating and planning for all the possible scenarios, including contingency plans? Are you able to communicate effectively with colleagues, with medical professionals, with government representatives, sponsors, volunteers, bosses from different areas? Are you able to pull people together? Having good AT skill often provides a pathway and might open a door to an opportunity, but the rest of it happens outside of the clinic and off the pitch. Um, I would say experiences matter, and I'm not talking job or work or AT experience. I'm talking about experiencing something or anything, experiencing something. Uh, Go to a York student event, go to a Sheridan student event, go to a community event, a concert, something. I'm always consciously trying to learn something when I go to an event, whether I'm working the event, whether I'm a volunteer at the event, whether I am a paying guest or a customer, or I'm invited guest or a paying customer. Weddings, night markets, street fairs, conferences, Disneyland and Universal Studios, because they are the best in creating and curating experiences. I like to take something away from all those experiences and kind of put it away because learn something that you never know. You might learn something that can help you as you do this kind of work in this event world. Relationships. Uh, the sports medicine world is a pretty small one, so build bridges everywhere you go and with everyone you meet. Having said that, that's not something that I'm very, very good at. So that's definitely something I still continue to work hard in trying to achieve. Mhm. So hopefully that has some value for your listeners.
And for us, I mean, I'm just like trying to absorb everything. Did you always know that you kind of wanted to step into like this little pathway? It's not for everyone, I
No, of
bet.
course not. I didn't graduate and become certified and go, you know what? I think I want to go and help plan the medical operations at some of the biggest events in the world. That's definitely not something I even contemplated. It wasn't even in the realm of imagination. And certainly didn't think that far ahead. It's just really, great, I'm out. Where can I go get a job? Where
Mhm,
can I work? Where can I get a job? Yeah, so which is perfectly normal. But I think um, the sooner you think about down the road, the better you're prepared for it.
mhm. Raf, any questions? Any
No, just
follow-up?
listening to that sounded like just kind of like drinking from like a fire hose in terms of like the amount of stuff that you should be aware of, not only like how your medical team like works, but also like how other departments work and how you guys rely on each other. I feel like that's like something that's like super important to take in. Like I haven't like thought about going to like a concert and trying to think about like all the logistics behind like how does this work? What happens when you have this? Is there a contingency for that? Like it's honestly like super like it's cool stuff. Like I know like for us like we were taught like when you watch a game we view it from a certain perspective. So I'm wondering if like you curated this lens of like leading with curiosity to figure out like logistics, if that was something you kind of developed while like you were working these events.
Yeah, I think it's a conscious choice
Yeah.
from day one when you go to something and you make a conscious choice to learn from an event. I think that's really, really key. When I'm with a team and we're at a tournament, you know, uh, what are their medical plans like? What are their emergency protocols? How did they do the emergency planning? What sort of people do they involve at that event? Um, and that changes sometimes. Where is the event being held? Are we here in Canada? Are we down in the US? Am I overseas? Am I in Asia? Am I in Africa? You know, uh, uh, all of that is our experiences and learning opportunities. That's great. I want to do that. I want to learn that. That's terrible. I never want to do that. Though equally important, right? Equally and learning opportunity and a good takeaway, what not to do or what to do. You know, uh, from for example, travel, how a team travels from the hotel to the playing field, to the pitch, and what are their experiences when they get off. All of that plays into a team or an athlete having an opportunity, both physically and mentally, to be prepared, be at their best, to be prepared. Do they get off the bus and everything's a surprise? Is everything chaotic? Do they have to worry about certain things because you forgot to take care of it? Because that's going to affect their preparation. So, all of those perspectives you bring to play when you're the one doing the planning and trying to create an environment for the teams so they can perform at their best. Certainly from the organizing side, you want teams performing at their best, not because they're the teams, because you don't necessarily have an invested interest in the teams, but that's the product. So a good performance on the pitch or a playing field is good entertainment for the spectators, which makes for a great event. So it all comes full circle, and understanding that you have a part to play in helping that product come alive on the field.
Do you have like
Yeah, I
an
was just in
example?
awe.
Oh yeah. It's like, do you have an example of like kind of like a mistake that you've made from like organizing an event? You're like, oh, maybe I could have done this better, and then you put it into action in like the next event that you
Of
plan.
course there are, but I put those all away because I never want to think about them. No, um, It's hard to say. It's often as simple as um, I failed to have a contingency to make sure my teams get supplies if they run out, or I had a plan in place, um, and it would have worked if everything worked out perfectly, but I only thought about the perfect scenario and did not, you know, take into in something as simple as traffic, for example. I can't get there. I had planned to be there at a certain time so they would have plenty of supplies and equipment to start the day because they'd asked me the night before, and I said no problem, and I get caught in traffic, or I'm stuck, or I get stuck in a traffic accident or something like that. It happens. Specifically, I can't think of anything that comes to mind right now, not because I'm perfect, but because again I've blocked those things out. Um, but failing to have contingencies in place have consequences. So it's not just the planning. You can't just plan for the perfect scenarios. You have to make sure you plan for things to go wrong as well.
And you like learn from every experience too, right? Like something doesn't go right here, then you're like, okay, next time I know to plan for this too, and add another layer to that.
Absolutely, and I certainly try. And one of the things that I try to talk about or try to instill um, with young ATs is just the ability to do some really good self-reflection and true self-reflection, where you're able to be objective about the day, the events of the day, your reaction to the events, your preparation for the events, and what went well, and more often not, more importantly, what didn't go well with you and your part in everything. So and that's a key or a vital learning opportunity. And it's not easy to do because your ego gets in the way. You don't want to think that you made a mistake. You don't want to accept that you made a mistake, but you have to, if you want to become better, you take ownership of that and you get better. You own it, you fix it, and you fix it for next time as well, and you move on. But it's important to be able to admit that to yourself and to be able to objectively notice that about yourself or your performance that day.
Hmm. No, for sure. I think introspection and like that stuff, like reflection, is also like a pretty important practice that I feel like a lot of people don't like take into consideration a lot. And I think it part of it is what helps to like make like a great like leader. So one of our questions for you is like in terms of like leadership, like what does effective leadership look like in like healthcare, or more specifically like in your domain?
Yeah, healthcare in general, I'm not the person to ask. I'm not qualified to answer that question across the whole board. Somebody much smarter is going to have to do that. But, you know, at its core, I think leadership is about setting a direction, um, and then making sure that the people that are doing the work are set up for success. And that's sort of how I approach a leadership or managing a team. Uh, as I mentioned before, I'm not the clinician. I'm not the person doing the work on the ground. I put plans together. So I have to make sure that um, the direction that I set and the plans that I make are setting up the folks on the ground for success because they are ultimately the one to carry out the work. Um, sounds might sound simple in a single sentence, but often very, very hard to do. There's so many aspects to something like that. If you're talking broadly, priorities, policies, regulations, protocol, budget. The list of considerations is a mile long. Um, every department involved, every functional area involved comes from a different point of view, and from a different perspective or a different, and they have different priorities. So there's so many competing priorities that you have to put into place. Um, so there's no one straightforward answer. Uh, I think you grow each time you do something. I think you have to want to lead, so that you put yourself out there to lead. You have to be willing to make mistakes, to accept mistakes, to learn from mistakes, and own those mistakes. You have to be able to apologize to the people around you if you make a mistake, but at the same time, how do you maintain their trust in you, right? So that's also a skill, being able to own up to your mistakes and still lead at the same time.
I think that's super important. Like as a student, like even going through the last 3 years, like just totally being like humble and just know that like you don't know everything and just really accepting like when you come up into a scenario or a situation with an athlete, for example, and then ask you a question
Mhm.
and you're not like, sorry if I sort of like you're not bullshitting them in their face, like just being humble and just like accepting that, okay, I don't know this, but I can find out for you. And that in that moment, that's just a learning experience. Like whoever you're asking, like you will never forget this one moment.
I think that's a really, really important point, especially for young or new grads, newly certified ATs, is a sense of humility. It's easy to think you know it all and you learned it all. Trust me, you haven't. I haven't. Most of us haven't. Most of us have been out for a very long time, haven't. There's always new things to learn. And consider myself very, very lucky. When I was a new AT, my very first patient in a clinic. I did an assessment for an hour, and at the end of it, had no idea what was going on. So, um, you know, and that's a humbling experience, and I think that's important and I think it was an important lesson that I've taken with me. So that sense of humility is important. That sense of curiosity is very important, that you want to learn. Whichever way you decide to take your career, clinical, non-clinical, completely different, whatever it is, you gotta want to learn about the direction of the path that you want to take.
How do you make
Ralph's got his thinking
sure? I
face
was like,
on.
yeah, I was like in terms of like leadership, like how do you make sure like the plans that you make place aren't like out of touch with like the people that you work with? So like sometimes I'll work in environments where like we have management, but they're kind of like out of touch of like what the people like working on the ground do. Like if I know you said you're not like the clinician, you're not the medicine person when you're working these events. So like how do you make sure that like the plans that you make place like are practical for the people that like work at these events when it comes to just planning on large scale.
Conversations at
Yeah.
the end of the day, and scenarios, right? If someone disagrees with how you've planned something or your direction, play out some scenarios with them. What if this and this and this happens? That's how my planning addresses that. And this is how my contingency plans address that if something goes sideways. Um, a conversation is really, really important. Being open-minded is really, really important. Um, Understanding that they're coming from a certain perspective. So you have to understand their perspective. And at the end of the day, ultimately, how do you get to that point of yes, that works for both sides? There's more than one way to be successful at something. Does what they want work? If it doesn't work, then, it doesn't work, and they have to understand that. Does what they want work for you? It can be done. It might not be the way you want it done, but it works. If it doesn't compromise your operations overly, and it's just a matter of what I prefer to do, then, maybe the door is open that it can work that way. The question then is, why they need it to work that way? And having an understanding of where they're coming from. I think ultimately, when we talk about teamwork and collaboration, you know, it's mentioned before, how much does somebody need to bend? Who needs to bend? How much do they need to bend? At what point can say, yeah, that doesn't work anymore, right? It's the same way when you work with different professionals. Somebody, orthopedic surgeon will look at a knee a little bit different than you would look at a knee, and different from, a massage therapist is going to look at a knee. Uh, whose point of view matters the most? Who's most correct, right? It all comes down to how you're approaching it, but that's where teamwork comes into play, and where your discussion comes into play, right? Chances are nobody's wrong and nobody's 100% right. It all comes down to working what's the best outcome for the scenario, what's the best outcome for the individual, what's the best outcome for the event as a whole. And as we talk about really understanding that your role and your team's role in the bigger picture is really, really key.
Em, you have anything?
Oh, I'm good.
I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about sometimes. Let's take a large event. Let's take an event that I've never done, and hopefully one day, well, let's say the Olympics. I've not been to the Olympics in any capacity, not even as a spectator, because I can't afford those tickets. So, but one of the things that the medical team will always run into and butt heads with is broadcast, TV. Broadcast always has lots of equipment along the pitch, a lot of different cameras, a lot of different views. But guess where you're standing? Where's your team located? Along the side of the pitch somewhere, because you need direct access onto the pitch onto to the players if something happens. So who gets the priority? Who needs to be where? Who gets to be up front? Who needs to back off a little bit? Right? Those, and there's not necessarily one right answer, but you need to understand that broadcast dollars are vital to a large event like that. Right? The broadcast partners pay a lot of money to be there to the event. They are the avenue where people who are not attending in person get to watch the event. So they're very important. And they think they're very, very important. And they come, very often they'll, you know, come across pretty heavy-handed. And that's a partnership. That's where you need to work together. And everybody needs to understand, you know, needs to understand their part in what's going on and work together to come up with a plan. You know, okay, I don't necessarily need my medical team to stand here. Can we stand here? What can you move around so that we don't run into you when we need to get onto the pitch? There's teamwork to be had. There's a lot of pitch space. Well, okay, not a lot of pitch space. It's always quite tight, but there's always a solution. And you build those relationships early. You put up your hand very, very early to go, I know I'm going to be in your way at some point. I know we're going to butt heads, but I'm going to shake your hand now and we're going to work this out together.
Is that like a lot of the times that's the biggest thing that you like kind of have to troubleshoot, you think, like at every event that you've had to work at?
Yeah, it's all about those relationships that you build. We talked about that, understanding your understanding of the big picture, their understanding of the big picture, and really developing an environment where everyone is trying to help each other out. I want you to succeed. I want your team to succeed. So how do I also get you to want me to succeed? How do I get you to also want my team to succeed so that we can work together and be happy partners sharing space.
Mm. Raf, you got the next question?
Do I have the next question? Uh,
So,
I was just like, I don't know, just like looking at your LinkedIn because I do want to get this right. At any point in time, you were a board member with CATA, right?
I'm on the board now.
You're on the board now. Okay. Yeah, I think we saw that on an Instagram post somewhere.
or
Um,
it might have just been, I've been like reading that CATA website religiously in case, there were some questions on the national exam about it.
about you?
And I looked at, I think it was like a list of board members, and I'm like, hey, Elwin, like that sounds so familiar. So I just made sure to like flag that if we ever got you on here. But yeah. Um, so I guess like what made you pursue that role? Or was it something that you applied for, or was this like you were nominated for? And then the second part to that question was, is there anything you can share with new members such as ourselves and incoming students and stuff like that to kind of like help aid in our journey as we, navigate graduation, work towards, our dream job or an environment to be in? And then also like what are some resources that you personally could like offer in terms of like direct us to where we could go for some more resources and stuff.
Well, as far as the CATA board goes, the CATA board, I didn't really pursue the role. I was nominated by someone that I have a lot of respect for. And so I accepted the nomination and went through the process and was elected onto the board. So now that I'm here, I do my best to advocate for the members and for the profession. Um, what do I want from new members? I think new ATs, what we really want is for you guys to be more engaged with the CATA and with the provincial organizations, because we need your voices, we need your hands if we want the profession to grow and to be better. Um, as far as a dream job, well, it's always good to have a dream, but you should try to have a plan as to how you want to achieve that dream. Because if you're only dreaming, then you're basically waiting to hit the lottery, which does happen. That's not very often. So, what is your plan to achieve the dream? Do you even know what it means to live that dream? Because if you don't, might be a nightmare, not a dream. So that being said, talk to the folks who are living your dream. Learn about their pathways, learn about their experiences, figure out how that applies to you. Because um, having a plan is important, or else you're just waiting for something to happen. And that works for some people. It has worked for some people. Certainly it's worked for me. I've been very, very lucky. But, I'm not sure I can advocate for just being lucky.
Mhm.
Um, you know, uh, we took resources, things new AT should consider having a mentor, preferably more than one mentor. Absolutely. Because nobody's going to be great at everything. So it isn't fair to expect a single mentor to be able to help you in every aspect of your career or all of your career goals. So, I really do advise that folks find more than one mentor to help them. Uh, Try developing your own pathways. My first 3 or 4 jobs after graduation came from my going into a clinic or an organization and introducing myself and telling them what I thought I could bring to them. Um, the first half of my career was like that, just going somewhere and going, hey, I think I can help you out with something that you're not asking for and haven't advertised for, but here I am. Um, so sometimes they'll work great and sometimes it won't, but again, put yourself out there. Um, the most rewarding opportunities out there, they usually go to someone with more experience. Let's be honest. That's just how the world goes sometimes. So you need to go and find a way to gain experiences. And I'm going to say a bad word now, volunteer. Uh, I know, but if they aren't going to hire you anyway, then you want that experience, then you need to go out there and find a way to be part of the game, to get in and get that experience. And maybe, just maybe, what you take away from the experience is more valuable than a paycheck. And I hope that's true. But if it's not true for this experience, it might be true for the next one. So again, the plan, the pathway, the thought process, and your approach to things. I mean, if you want to be part of the COC Health Services team at an Olympics or something like that, that's a volunteer role for about a month. So if you're not willing to try something for a weekend or even, for a day, maybe you're not ready for the next big step.
All about volunteering.
We do.
I spent a
We're
lot
about
of
to
time
spend
volunteering. Yeah.
Yeah, we're about to spend 14 hours tomorrow at Badminton Canada in Markham for the Yonex.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so like me and Em, like we talk about like volunteering all the time for just like bad word shits and gigs, but like I feel like it's very like exactly what you said, like what you come out like from the event might be more valuable than the paycheck. So like
Hmm.
I can't talk about like the amount of people you just meet when you volunteer for your
Absolutely.
for events and just being like open-minded, like, hey, I'm not getting a paycheck, but like I'm here, like I go by like the mentality of like you're either like earning or you're learning. So as long as I'm out there and I'm like, open and I'm trying to learn and just like meet as much
Absolutely.
people as possible, then like it's a positive trade-off for me, right?
100%. And you never know who you run into in a tournament like that. It's a world-class event. You're gonna run into a Team Canada member or a player, a coach, an administrator who really likes your approach or likes working with you and says, who knows? Could be a week, a month, a year down the road, it says, hey, I know a guy. Let's give them a shot. You know, it's you never know. So create some of those opportunities for yourself. Leave yourself, be open-minded to try new things. Um, a lot of things have been done. You want to work in the NBA, there's only one NBA team in Canada, and that job's taken, right? So how do you get into something that you want to do? What is the path? What do you build? But how do you know if there's something else out there that you want? I didn't go out to I didn't start school to go, I want to work in field hockey. And I ended up in field hockey for over 20 years. And that's opened all kinds of doors for me. I've traveled the world with field hockey. I've worked on every single continent in this world with field hockey, except in the Arctic, because penguins don't play field hockey. But that's opened so many doors for me, and wasn't part of the plan. But you recognize no hopefully you recognize an opportunity when it's there, and or you go seeking opportunities that somebody else hasn't thought of yet. There's a big line of people that want to work in baseball and football and basketball. So that's a bit of a tougher climb, I think. It's much more competitive. So where are you going to get some of the higher level experiences that you can get if you don't put yourself out there to volunteer at events, to do things to learn?
Mhm.
I also want to circle back on mentorship. One of the things on the CATA website we were forced to read was how to make sure that we could apply to, for that mentorship page, which I don't think seems to be up right now. If you have like a estimate on the timeline on when that like website would be up, or that part of the website would be up.
I certainly don't. I think one of the things that a lot of uh, ATs might not realize is the board is not a full-time board. We don't work in the day in and day out operations of the CATA. There's an office team that does that. The board provides direction. The board meets and makes major decisions, but the day-to-day is handled by an office team. So something like that, certainly send an email, ask the question, put up your hand, and say, hey, I'm really interested in being a part of that. So and get the questions you need from the office team. Absolutely. And that's part of what I mean about being engaged with the CATA, because we need to hear from you. If nobody asks about it, maybe we think nobody cares, or nobody's looking for a mentor. Then, why do we have a program, right? So definitely ask a question if you have it. Ask a question that isn't on there. It isn't, if you have something that you're wondering about, you know, send an email, ask a question.
Mhm. No, for sure. So like we'll keep on this there's a mentorship train. So the first time that we've heard your name on this podcast, we were interviewing Holly Dunn. And then she was mentioning, because you talked about her experience in like Field Hockey Canada, and this is when she mentioned you as like being one of her like early mentors. So we just kind of want like like your voice on like how important networking is, and how like students or new grads should be like approaching mentorship like in an authentic way.
I think networking is really, really important and something I'm really, really poor at and continue to have to work on. But in terms of networking and authenticity, uh, don't gatekeep anything. You've got a good idea or you have a good resource, don't keep it to yourself. Because how do you expect somebody else to share their knowledge and their resources if you're not willing to share, right? So you can't be afraid of, uh, oh, someone's going to get a leg up on me if they know this, or if they meet this person, I'm gonna hide that, relationship to myself, and I think that's already the wrong approach to anything. We talk about teamwork, we talk about collaboration, and that requires being open with people. So relationships are super important. The sports medicine world is a small one here in Canada. So, go meet people, go talk to people, put yourself out there, Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and don't be afraid to share. Share your knowledge, ask for knowledge. Um, you know, don't be afraid to ask for knowledge. If somebody's not willing to share, ask somebody else, and don't be afraid to give knowledge.
Sharing is caring, basically.
Absolutely. That's how the world goes round.
Mhm. So, Ellen, I have your number. If I have a question, are you open to me messaging you and or
Absolutely.
sending you an email for
Abs
anything?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. If I can't figure out what to say, ChatGPT will help, no problem.
I appreciate any response, honestly. Better than being left unread, you know?
I don't think I've ever not responded to anybody.
Except our
I
first
might have been
email.
not very helpful to some people, but I don't think I've ever not responded to anybody.
Except our first request email that ended up in your junk.
Yeah, I didn't see that forever. I reached back out to Corby and says, they never reached out.
Yeah, and then us reaching out to Corby saying, Owen never answered. Yeah,
Oh, that is so nice. It's definitely like it is a small world. So like one time I did reach out to like Amy Stefaniak just for some advice on like what to do like after grad and how do I want to get to like my dream jobs and like how do I meet people and like make my space. And then one of the things that she said was like what like she was told as a student is like apply to major games. Right. Like, so that's kind of why, like, when I saw like the posting, I was like looking on Facebook and I saw like the Ontario Summer Games volunteer sheet. I was like, first thing I did is like send it to Emily. I was like, oh, so what events are we doing? What days are we doing? Just trying to get out there and have as much experience as we can. Like, we're about to do it like next month. It's gonna be like, I guess, our first experience in provincial games.
Mhm.
Do you have like any words of advice on like what to expect? I know it's probably gonna be long days, long hours, but yeah, you have any advice?
Long days and long hours is just part of the job in part of this world. So if that's not something you can handle, then you need to rethink rethink your career choices. Um, that's just go through with it. Have fun, talk to everyone, learn from everybody, and have fun with it. Go with an open mind. Um, Absolutely try to do something, work one of the events or a sport that you haven't done before. You've done hours and hours and hours of badminton. They're going to want you to do some badminton and learn and give some of your expertise and experience. Absolutely do that. Share your expertise, share your experience, and then go and try something new so that you also take something away from it that's going to be new and adding to your toolkit. Uh, Talk to the folks that have done have experiences that you're interested in, or even them that you're not interested in. Talk to the other professions, learn about their perspective on what they're doing. You're quite possibly going to meet people that this is their first event, their first sporting event, even. Maybe they've never covered sports before, and so they might want to learn something from you. You know, events like that are amazing. They're fun. Go and enjoy yourself. You know, go meet people, learn about the sports, learn about how things come together, how events come together. Be part of the big picture. You know, if someone that's not an athlete, for if someone asks you something that's not injury related, parents might just want to be might be curious about something. Somebody just wants to find where the next team is playing because they can't find the team that they're looking for. You know, don't be afraid to help out, be a part of the team.
for sure. Alrighty, Raph. Do we have any other like serious questions, or can we like dive into like the lightning round questions for fun and to like wrap up here?
Oh, you're saying that you have to go to sleep soon, yeah. Um, there's like
Sure,
there's like
sure.
maybe like two. I guess there's like two more. I guess I'll just say both of them and then you can answer to whatever like depth you want to for each
Sure.
question. So like the first question is like Where do you kind of see like the field of like therapy progressing in like the next 10, 15 years?
Mhm.
And if you see any like opportunity, like if I know like you invented like a couple roles in your first like couple years of being a certified, you kind of see kind of like different avenues for ATs to seek roles that like currently don't exist.
Mhm.
And then the second question is like you talked about like volunteering, being able to say yes. So like one of the other questions is like what's your like secret to like availability and making sure you can capitalize and take advantage on opportunities when they pop up? Because there's obviously a lot to balance with people, like people have to balance like personal life, like you don't get paid, so making sure that like your finances are taken care of. You might have like family
Mhm.
like responsibilities. So kind of like what's your key to making sure that you are available while being able to like just uplift other things in your life? So those are kind of
Mhm.
our two questions.
Okay. Um, First question first, I guess, is where do I see athletic therapy in a few years or down the road? It's a very interesting question and maybe impossible to answer right now. On the one hand, I'm really quite positive about our profession. Our new grads are entering with more knowledge and better skills than ever before, and that's wonderful. That's amazing. On the other hand, there are some interesting risks to our profession at the moment coming from places that we never expected. So it's never been more important for new ATs to be part of building our profession, being engaged with the CATA, being engaged with your provincial bodies, and to advocate for themselves and to advocate for the profession. Um, it's very easy and completely understandable to get caught up in your own world and not even realize that maybe our profession is in trouble or it's stagnant, it's not growing. We need voices and we need hands and we need you. We need everybody to put up their hand to say and either say something or say I can help. You know, um, Again, those are learning opportunities too. It's a great way to network with your colleagues because everybody that puts up their hand to help is an AT. So that's a great way to build your own network, you know. Um, you asked about, I'm sorry, I forgot the other question.
Like the
We
secret to availability, taking advantage of
Availability.
opportunities,
Yeah,
and balancing like, family life, and all that stuff.
that's a difficult one, family life balance, that's a difficult one. Um, I guess it starts with one, when you're in a relationship that your partner understands what you do and how important it is to you to be able to do what you do. And so part of that is and the opportunities to volunteer your time. And volunteering your time doesn't have to be a tremendous amount of time. You have to plan ahead, right? You're not going to say to your partner, this weekend I'm going to go volunteer at this event, or tomorrow I'm going to go and do this. So it really helps if you know well ahead of time so everyone can be prepared, especially for you. We talk about finances and things like that. That's part of the planning. Um, I had this question once with somebody when they were talking about, something like the Olympics, whether you're volunteering for a month and going, the Olympics comes around every 4 years. You've had 4 years to plan for it. If that's what you are something that you think you want to do, then that's something that you need to plan around, well ahead of time. It's not a last minute decision to spend that much time away from your job, from work that's paying the bills. We all have bills to pay, but it's obviously possible because people do it. So, it's going to have to be a different plan for everybody. Not everybody will land on the same plan, but plan. You know, please plan ahead, plan well ahead. Yeah, from uh, even the events like that you're involved in, the badminton coming up. You didn't learn about it last weekend and decide to go, okay, I'm going to go and then going to your boss and say, yeah, I'm not coming in this weekend or I'm not coming in Thursday because I'm going to go to this other event. right? You learn about it well ahead. You plan for it. You have conversations with with your superiors, if you have any, with your partners in life, and so that everybody's on the same page and you have that discussion, just like anything else. Life, family life, that's teamwork too. So, you know, it's it's a sacrifice. It's not always easy. I know personally for myself, I miss the first time both of my children learned to come down the stairs. I was there when they learned to go up. I was never around when they learned to come back down again. I remember one, I think my older son at the time, I think he was 4 years old, and I was in Uruguay. And I called, and he picked up the tablet, and he picked up the call on the video call because he was watching YouTube, and it pops up, so he clicks it. And he says to me, Papa, you're bothering me. Your face is in the way. I can't watch YouTube. So, okay, I'll call your mom later. Go ahead and hang up. What are you gonna do? Right? And you know, it's a conversation. Understand it is difficult for your partner. I understand it's difficult for your family, and you have that conversation. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Before I went down to Australia in 2018, for example, that was going to be an extended contract. We didn't know how long, so we had a conversation before we even applied for the job and go, hey, what's what's workable for us? How long can I be gone that's still workable, that I'll have a home to come home to? And we decided that, you know what, if it goes this long, we're okay. So when I applied and asked the question, I went, "Okay, it works, it fits, we're okay." So, it is about there are some sacrifices to be had all around. You have to appreciate that people are making sacrifices for you. You have to plan ahead so that you can afford to miss time. And it might be a bit of marketing. People have, your clinic or your job or your role, whatever that is, have to see the value in having you learn from those experiences and being a part of those experiences. And that there's value for them to be able to say that you were part of those experiences. Lots of words that don't necessarily mean anything because again, it's different situation for everybody.
We go back to the motto, it depends, which is like the life of an AT. Alrighty. I think we'll jump into some of the lightning round questions. Are
Okay.
you good with that, Elvin? I know we're kind of like
No, no,
going
go
a little
for it.
bit over time.
No, not at all.
Okay, awesome. The goal is just to answer like rapid fire, just as fast as you
Okay.
can off the top of your head.
Again, I
Like
don't have to
Corby,
explain anything. Go for it. If I don't
yeah,
actually have to explain anything, that's great.
yeah. Like I know, like Corby spent like 30 minutes on one question, but
I gotta go back and
okay.
watch that one.
First question: favorite tape job?
Tape, thumb or arch.
Thumb or arch? Okay, interesting.
You want to know
Um,
why?
I mean, my follow-up question would have been, when's the last time you taped?
When was the last time I taped?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, not too long ago. I still do it.
Okay.
I keep my hands. You've got to maintain clinical skills. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, not too long.
Okay, that's good. What is your pre-game song? So like what do you listen to?
Yeah, it's not a song. It's an unfortunate sound of my own voice working down a checklist and timelines. So it's not a song. It's just me going, what else needs to be done? What time is it? You know, am I behind? Am I ahead? Am I ready? Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Your internal monologue. Okay.
I can't say we've had that answer before. What is your favorite sport to watch or your favorite sport to cover?
Different things. Favorite sport to watch, volleyball and cricket. Favorite sport to cover, judo.
Judo. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that happens in judo. What is the minimum hours of sleep needed to function on the clinic or field, or I guess in your case, the office?
Yeah, okay, this is not advice, okay? This is individual for everybody. This is not advice. For myself personally, for short periods, 2, maybe 3 weeks, 5 hours,
That's not
and
bad.
5 hours and plenty of coffee. I can be pretty functional.
Okay. Is coffee your preferred method of caffeination? Because that's the next question.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you
Milk
take
and
your coffees then?
milk and sugar.
One milk, one sugar?
Hot.
Oh, okay.
Milk and sugar hot.
Not a nice
Two milks, one
combination.
sugar.
Okay. If you had 1 year to train for any Olympic sport that you've never played before, which one are you choosing?
Never played before, not just something I suck at now and want to get better at. Okay. Probably like a shooting sport or archery.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That works for my terrible cardio and bad knees and hips.
Fair
Okay.
enough.
Hard sports though. You gotta keep your heart rate low.
Yeah, yeah. I might have to lay off the caffeine.
Yeah. Yeah. Next question is your most embarrassing or funniest clinic and or field story.
Ah, I should again. Embarrassment goes with errors. I shut it all away. Put it aside. Never be thought of again. Um, I don't wear a watch anymore. Unless I'm on the field. Because I always take off my watch when I treat clinically, and it just lies around. So there's always someone will pick up the watch and go, whose watch is this? And after a while, all the staff and all the returning patients know exactly who it is. So if someone new picks up a watch and asks who it is, you get about a dozen people screaming, screaming the answer, and everybody, you get a whole slew of voices. And my watch becomes a bit of a treasure hunt because it could be anywhere in the clinic.
I thought you were gonna say like every time someone comes up and gets a watch, they leave the clinic with a new watch.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, no, you usually, I wouldn't be surprised if they moved it just for the fun of it. But I often don't even remember it you know, till I leave or even the next day.
mm,
So I don't wear a watch anymore.
okay. Good to know. I've never started wearing a watch, so okay. That's good to know. The next last question is like alternate career choice. It says if not AT, but I guess if not in your current role.
Uh, I've actually put thought into this and developed things in my brain over the years. Yeah, coffee shop. Just run a coffee shop so people can escape from the world and have a little oasis away from life.
Okay.
Mm. What would it be called?
Oasis.
Oasis. Okay.
Oasis. Okay. Pretty good,
I can
actually.
imagine you doing like the latte art already.
Yeah. Well, but I'd be the grumpy old guy in the corner with a coffee, and somebody else will be doing the coffee art. Got twitchy hands. Won't come out.
Oh, who knows? Maybe like you can put the business proposal down. It could be a nice retirement plan for you.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, it's definitely thought about it.
Okay, that's not bad. No, that was all of the lightning round questions. So at this point, if you have anything else like you want to like leave like the viewers with like some departing words of wisdom, now's the best time to do it.
No wisdom from me. I think everyone's going to have to build their career, right? Find their own path, meet their own champions and their own mentors, and you know, but don't be afraid to do that. Reach out to people you know, and build those connections until you find the right person that's going to help you get where you want to go. But have a plan, do the work, do the groundwork.
It's
Sounds
awesome.
like wisdom to me.
It is wisdom, yeah, for sure. Well, we thank you for joining us for this really late episode recording. It was long time in the making, for sure.
Mhm.
No, thank you very much for having me. Real pleasure. And you know what? I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Keep it up. This is fantastic.